Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for the second installment of the S' Artist Book Reading Series. We are your co-hosts, AB Gorham, and Aaron Kohik. Tonight's reading features performances by Twyla Sampaco, Susan Viguers, Alex Benedict, and Rachel Simmons. So the program for tonight is good. We're going to give a very brief overview of the series, and then we'll launch right into the readings after that. And then at the very end, there will be time for questions and conversation. So a little bit about the series, the S' Artist Book Reading Series. We started it for makers, readers, artists, institutions, collectors, and publishers. The series is an exhibition space and a performance platform. The idea being to create more accessible public opportunities for the artist book community to gather, to experience physical books in new and different formats, and to create new channels for distribution.
Our hope for the SAS series is that it will encourage everyone in the field, artists, publishers, distros, libraries, book arts orgs, and schools, to make reading a regular part of an artist book practice, even host readings of their own, or incorporate artist book makers into their already established literary readings. Posted in the chat, you'll find our Instagram handle, the link to join our SAS mailing list, and the link to our GoFundMe. Support from our community is absolutely necessary for us to run this series and compensate our readers for their time. So far, we've been able to raise only about 10% of what we need to run this series for 3 years. Any contribution is appreciated. But we definitely want your money, don't get me wrong. We do realize that there are more pressing needs right now. In light of the devastation caused by Hurricane Helene, we are posting some links for disaster relief funds and hope that you can help there.
Okay, and now we're going to start the reading. So our first reader is Twyla Sampaco. Heartless Twyla is a Filipina-American photographer and self-published author based in Seattle, Washington. Preferring old, gifted, and novelty film cameras, she makes the most of faulty shutters and ambient light, reprocessing unresolved trauma with the romance of plastic lenses, leaking light seals, and inconsistent film advance mechanisms. Her hybrid analog digital photography process gives her something tangible to do with her hands and creative latitude for expressing emotional truth. Twyla graduated from the University of Washington with a bachelor's degree in material science and engineering and did program management things at big companies until she stopped. In 2021, she self-published her first book, Technicolor Nightmare, a photo memoir about surviving bipolar disorder in her 20s. Twyla's current projects are surviving bipolar disorder in her 30s and completing her fourth book. She is a resident artist at Blue Cone Studios in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood and is the Photographic Center's Northwest Basement Monster. All right, thank you, Twyla.
Hello. One moment. Let me share my screen. All right. Can you folks see that?
Looks good.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Heartless Twyla, aka Twyla Sampaco, and I'll be reading my first book, Technicolor Nightmare, a Manic Pixie film photography memoir. This book is very long, so I'll be skimming through the pages and reading pieces intermittently. We'll provide a link to download the PDF ebook in the chat after the reading. Actually, I think AB actually already put the link in there. Content warnings are mental illness, trauma, drug use, and falling in love with a stripper. Introduction. This book is not a success story, and it is not a confessional. It's a whispered secret, a hypothetical question I'm asking for a friend about a terribly dark and confusing part of my life. I'm not prepared to tell these stories in my outdoor voice on plain white paper in solid black text. I'm not ready to say, world, here's my shame, here's the truth, and here's what I did about it, but I had to say something, so I made this. Technicolor Nightmare is a compilation of bad dreams, old blog posts, unsent love letters, and fantabulous bullshit written and shot on film in the lost years of my 20s. I edited it together during the COVID-19 pandemic lockdowns, where I found myself falling into familiarly unstable territory as I reached my mid-30s. To honor my younger incarnation's perspectives and survival journey, I kept her words mostly untouched. I don't know where sleeping ends. Everywhere is just people who are like each other, people who are dreams, people who fell out of dreams, except I suspect they might be real. Real and not real and possibly real people turn into each other, start dating each other, talk shit about each other, don't know each other. I can't keep track. I see old faces and the new ones. They're the same people, I swear, remixed, defrosted, embellished. I'm so tired. They've gone down in quality, the apparitions, all of us faded, edges cracking, polite smiles and pursed lips. We're all so tired. Today, a man stared straight at me and said, Asian girl skinny, like a request, or dance move, or an espresso. I'm also over-caffeinated, and I have done 2 very public interpretive dances today. Face stakes. These things are true of me. I possess unusual creativity. I have vivid and bizarre dreams. I am very good at remembering and reconstructing my dreams. I'm not sure which quality begets what, and I doubt it matters. The issue at hand is that I have been FedExed a box of human faces. The faces have been neatly wrapped onto individual styrofoam trays and stacked, much like the steaks at a grocery store. I appreciate the wax seals of authenticity on each package. However, this is not the order I placed. Someone made an error, and now instead of the 500 paper Buddhas I requested, I have a box of face steaks staring at me. Which brings up another question. Where are their eyes? The clock on the nightstand says it's 6 a.m. I think I'd fallen asleep around 4:30 or 5-ish maybe. I try to close my eyes again and get some real rest. Good luck with that, we say, as I drop into the other side again, right into the crop of a wailing wooden goose with fuchsia sails headed for Tortuga. Oh no, I think to myself as the goose glides over the ocean of tulip petals. I forgot to return the faces. Why is sleeping so exhausting? Same old sins in a brand new instance. A lot of things have happened in the last year or so, including but not limited to several job changes, a new laptop, a new boyfriend, and a new bout of alcoholism to numb the shame. Things that have stayed the same. The familiar feeling of, I don't want to be alone right now, but the boyfriend is asleep and I really don't think it's worth waking him just to sit in silence. Maybe I do want to be alone. I can't tell anymore. I'm so fucking high maintenance and crazy. If I were artistic and pompous, I'd go with tortured, but I don't know if it counts if there's nothing torturing me aside from my crippling insecurity and need for watery, windy things. I've been hiding from the world again while playing it cool when the boyfriend is around. Oh, yeah, things are fine. Everything's fine. Let's do fun stuff. Everything is okay. I think I need help. I need help very badly. But I'm lying to people about how horrible I feel and how hopeless it all looks. I'm skipping my shrink appointments and she has quit calling me. Ah, well, fuck it all. No one cares, including me. I've given up and now I'm back to watching the fibers snap one at a time. Nothing will save me but myself, and I'm too fucking weak for it. When will I learn? Love will not save me. Lovers will not save me. Why the fuck should they? It's not part of the job description. And the only one who wanted to save me is gone because I didn't want him to, and I still don't. And yet I am affectionate and accept the nice things and stay together, possibly out of some fear of being alone. I'm hiding behind you and you don't even know it, just like I hid behind the others. And it's funny because I've been in this place quite a few times before, lying like this with my laptop like this, and you lying like that next to me, except before you was someone else. And after you, I know I'll see this again. I'll look up from my screen to an illuminated back, my supposed other half facing away while I type my frustrations instead of leaving. I will never change. I will always sit in the dark waiting for you to figure out what I need when what I need is for me to do the right thing. Fuck this shit. I'm going to bed. And in the morning, I'll be better. I dreamed he smoked golden orchids, exhaled rivers crawling lazily, forming clouds of stars on the dark blue ceiling, the surface of the ocean upside down above our heads. Rolling with the interference of the music of my mother's perfume, bamboo islands and little white flowers floating in the strange new sky. We named a lotus the sun, and I was the moon. His right I held Jupiter. But despite the smoke, I could see another land and further stars. I saw the tributaries to follow, and each day I wake to wonder how long until I drift down one and out of the dream. Cherry cigarettes. We battled our way out of the mess of resentment and unnecessary headaches to a grassy hill under living rolling clouds, listening to the music bloom up around us and smoking cherry cigarettes with reckless abandon. She said they tasted like freedom and handed me one. I coughed like a dork and had no regrets. The desert was cold and sparse, but filled with something electric and unshakable. I don't know how else to explain it. Dark magic, maybe, the end of the world, the death of time. Any such explanation would not be a surprise. She has 2 little girls and too many jobs and not nearly enough free time. I've been anxiously hiding under a rock. Now when I miss her or when I feel trapped, I look for cherry cigarettes and remember that in the middle of the shit fiesta that was our mismanaged and mentally tormented lives, we had a stronghold and we held on to the light. Rest in peace, cherry cigarettes, outlawed in 2009. Madonna. I daydream of us dancing. We're on the walkway in the Denver airport wearing a series of scarves and pins from the gift shop, lip syncing and going for the gold. You're Devendra Banhart in a bustier and eyeliner. I'm Madonna in a swim corset and no pants. We both have Nokia alarm clocks and jetpacks strapped to our backs as we make up choreography between swings of our good friend Johnny Walker. The cameraman is our good friend Dave or Don or Dan. We met him on the plane as I had the window seat and you had the aisle. Don sat in the middle and you passed me notes in a small bottle of No-Dose in which I kept the various chemicals that made the trip more or less or significantly less tolerable for your leggy anatomy and my antsy fire pants that could never sit down for too long. Medicine roulette was the game and we asked Dave if he wanted to play. There's 30% chance of Xanax and 20% chance of Ritalin. The rest is a surprise. I think there's a vitamin C in there too. He consents. What do you do for a living, Dan? You ask him. I make commercials. I'm about to make one for Nokia. So there we are in Denver, dancing and singing and air humping a cardboard cutout of Justin Timberlake to my mad guitar grooves. Dale says it's going to go viral for sure. Everyone will love it, and we'll probably have to write out the popularity with a whole series bigger than the Geico cavemen. This is the stuff that dreams are made of. As it turns out, Dave's really just a kid in art school who makes photocopies and brings coffee to people who make commercials for Nokia. And I'm actually just sitting in my bedroom listening to Madonna and missing you. You're really just a boy I've met maybe 20 times in my entire life, but we really are in love. We really did dance in Denver. Rest in peace, Buckaroo Tavern. My best friend was conceived because of you, and I never had to pay for my own beer. 1938 to 2010. This is the last one I'll be reading. Fairy tales. Annie is the smartest, sweetest stripper, therapist, priestess you'll probably ever meet. She's a really nice girl who has her top off, and she will give you the privilege of a lap dance upon the respectful sacrifice of some cold hard cash. With teasy charisma and clever small talk, she discards your pretensions and empties your wallet. A college dropout who sold amphetamines on campus, she runs a pharmacy and has her very own holiday with work published in a little academic journal called Science. Get a little closer, watch the devil dancing in her details. This fairy has no natural predators. There is enough of her biography to fill millions of books in just as many genres, and that's just the fact-based ones. She is probably the second coming, and no warnings could have prepared us for how much cuter she is than Jesus. Pardon my blasphemy, but also prove me wrong. Thank you so much for your time, everyone, and massive thanks to my patrons and Kickstarter backers who made Technicolor Nightmare possible. My info is in the chat. And I have a new book coming out in May, and it's a hot mess. Thank you, AB and Erin, for putting together this amazing event, and I'm excited for all the readings.
Thank you, Twyla. Our next reader is Susan Viguers. Susan began her career as a scholar, the PhD in English, and teacher of literature and writing at the University of the Arts in Philadelphia, publishing academic articles primarily on English Renaissance drama, as well as memoir and some poetry. During that time, she headed a university-wide writing program, which culminated every year in a multidisciplinary freshman project. She came to art making in late middle age through a back door, transitioning from liberal arts into the university's College of Art and Design, and then, for 9 years, directed the MFA Book Arts and Printmaking program, a program in which she had taught since the mid-80s. She is now a professor emerita. Her artist books are in public collections in the United States and abroad, including UC Berkeley, Yale University, Harvard, Wellesley College, Hungary's King St. Stephen Museum, and Japan's Kyoto Institute of Technology, and have been shown in numerous exhibitions, including in New York, Seoul, Beijing, and Alexandria. Her most recent award was a Rockefeller Foundation Bellagio Arts residency. Okay, take it away, Susan.
Okay. Hello. The Thing Is, You Guys, by Susan Viguers. Whenever you see a hearse go by, remember that someday you're going to die. The worms crawl in, the worms crawl out, the worms play pinochle on your snout. The thing is, you guys, you grow old, but you don't think you're old. That's the problem. Now, what was the point of my story? First year of college, we could take a break from our weekly composition and write a short story. My story, an old woman in a wheelchair in front of the cage, communing with a chimpanzee, both caged. My idea of being old, not that I was thinking about it for myself. I used to scoff at someone's remembering something after not remembering it. I presumed they were lying. But now, often I feel the shape of a word, a name, so at least I know it's there. And sometimes it eventually shows up, long, long after I've stopped calling for it, sometimes even days later. Or the memory of an unremembered event can suddenly or slowly rise up from the morass of my brain. My memory is porous, and I no longer trust it. Dying, my mother could not find words. Leaving her that last time she seemed herself, she motioned, I thought, that she wanted me to take something. It seemed like it was in the closet. This, this. She became increasingly distressed. This. Deadly charade. In the end, I took from the closet embroidered cloth and hung it on a wall in my study, her gift to me for words that can't be said. We witnessed dying from the outside. Roger Angell in his 90s writes about becoming invisible. For me, when someone on a bus offers me a seat, there's a momentary, who's he talking to? I once read that beautiful women have a harder time getting old than homely women. I have a friend who is strikingly beautiful, but she's not a good case study because she never believed she was beautiful. When I was about 14, I asked my mother if she wished she could be young again. No, she said immediately. I pressed her. If I could know all I know now and be young again, I might. I don't think I would even then. From my college roommate. Outside, we've changed. Inside, we're the same as we were 40 years ago. People assume the outside and the inside are the same. We live from the inside out. Many of the people I know my age and younger are downsizing into a condominium, an apartment, an assisted living facility. Not to do so is to be in denial. At the very least, get rid of things. I don't want my children to hate me, said a friend. My parents died with their lives around them. I don't remember hating them. But I admit, I do worry that I'll die with dirty dishes sitting in the sink, with the cat box smelling, with my diaries exposed for anyone to see. My mother's injunction, clean underwear. What if you had an accident? My aunt was a model for those who believe in facing the inevitable. On retiring, she moved from her Greenwich Village apartment to a small house in town where she'd grown up to an apartment and volunteered at a nearby care facility, and finally to that facility. By then, she'd given away all her things. Visiting her shortly before she died, I remember her bed, a bureau, and a few things on a table. She was still in bed, and when I urged her to get up, my New York City professional workaholic aunt said, "It's too much work." My twin sister died suddenly last December. I'm living on borrowed time. Good news, guys. We're too old to get early onset Alzheimer's. You are old, Father William, the young man said, and your hair has become very white, and yet you incessantly stand on your head. Do you think at your age it is right? Lewis Carroll. The thing is, you guys, you grow old, but you don't think you're old. That's the problem. Now, what was the point of my story? Time just keeps on going along. The thing is, you guys, was conceived and the text drafted, and most of the self-portrait images drawn during an in cahoots residency, August of 2022. The portraits are blind contour drawings. The dirge is a song, as I remember it from my childhood, which we sang when we saw a hearse go by. Whenever you see a hearse go by, remember someday you're going to die. The worms crawl in, the worms crawl out, the worms play pinochle on your snout. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Our next reader is Alex Benedict. Alex is from the Cuyahoga Valley and has nested in the Cleveland area. He operates offset presses for a living and publishes books on receipt paper through Between the Highway Press. He is currently writing a biography of Cleveland publisher and poet D.A. Levy and has recently published a short collection with Ethel Zine called Offhandedly and has another book forthcoming with Above Ground Press called Fragments of a Mirrored Voice for a Friend.
Thank you, Aaron, and Twyla and Susan for your readings. Cattle is the project that birthed Between the Highway Press in the winter of 2020. Working as a gas station cashier, I used my receipt machine to write the book, scribbling short lines in red ink between customers. At the time, I was researching the animal agricultural industry in the US and reading the poetry of the poet Jackson Maclow. The structure and diction of the text is based on etymologies, beginning with the word cattle, and then burrowing into as many related words as possible. The subtitle, The Fields, the Slaughterhouse, the Supermarket, loosely structures the poem, as the words divide and drift farther from their source. The animals are parted and transported to alien locations. Although I sought a publisher at first, I realized that I wanted to keep the poem close to its original form on receipt paper. I soon bought a receipt printer of my own and published Cattle alongside 2 other poetry collections in late 2021. Since then, I've edited and printed over 22 publications on receipt paper by others, including republications of Cleveland publisher and poet D.A. Levy. Today, I'll be performing passages of Cattle with the preface and some sections from the beginning and end. Before I begin, I'll read a quote by Levy. And reading to any audience is like being led to a slaughterhouse, to be asked questions and know if you had an answer, it wouldn't be heard. Cattle, the fields, the slaughterhouse, the supermarket. Through the heavy smoke of the factories, as if preparing for a mechanical Sabbath, moving like a shadow through the endless days of rain and fire, surrounded pleasurably in amongst massed gorgeous figures, making cries, one leaving oneself, being torn apart so continually, that's emotion as interior, into the visible, specific congruence of form and matter, energy moving into the clarification of each face, hand, ear, mouth, eye, billions, the differences not submerged but resting clear as the surface, and not rising above the surface. We are in danger of forgetting the language which all things and events speak without metaphor. This is the grass that grows wherever the land is and the water is. This is the thoughtful merge of myself in the outlet. I know I am deathless. I know I am August. I laugh at what you call dissolution. The pleasures of heaven and the pains of hell are with me. The first I graft onto myself, and the latter I translate into a new tongue. What is the direct trial that is today? Is it the trial of the open body under the open sky and the open streets? Is it to make articulate the inarticulations of we who are not even animals? Is it the gathering of the penetrated bodies into clusters of disinterest? Is it the professionalization of plunder? Does it long for a new body, a new city, a new time, any new terrain of possibility from which to newly move? Does it carve an eternal heaven on a stage? How about the kitchen counter? This movement proceeds according to its own law. To guide the behavior of its subjects is a preparation to fit each of them equally well for the role of executioner and the role of victim. Cattle. Fill the fields with cattle. The fields are emptied of cattle. The cattle are emptied of fields. The fields are emptied of fields. The cattle are emptied of cattle. The fields are emptied and the slaughterhouse is filled. The cattle are efficiently emptied and the supermarket is filled. And the supermarket is filled sufficiently, filled with others who are emptied of ourselves. There are hidden rivers, there are hidden doors. Walk through this door in this river of fire. Walk through this empty motion. This is the motion of the fields. This is the motion of the slaughterhouse. This is the motion of the supermarket. And they are the motion of capital. This is proper. Starve them for 24 hours. Before they're bleeding, this is property. Proper, a proper motion by preparing the head, prepared itself and particularly bisected, belonging to itself and by limbed properly, moving along the head, both rounded, the head itself an amphitheater, displacing the response from its origin without memory, a rigid blooming, proper calving restraint. Cut, cut, cut. Scratch eyes properly prepared by belonging, both rounded, close and near, longing to be prepared narrow, a bisected theater of watching watched, being prehensile, particularly calved into inward trembling. Properly property. The head of capital without a head, property preparing a little head itself belonging to the carcass theater, rounding nearer. Through its blood orbit, a head of heads bisecting belonged along the columns of the theater, rounded, hemorrhaging little hooves through dark grass and fire's familiar restraint, both cut and swelling along its motion proper. This is your head. A head in a bowl, in a soft bowl of light. This head, a hooked skull, rounded along a wide column of capillaries. The bowl in our bodhisattva's hands, a disarranged dress prepared in this little church of self-containing motion. Closely, watching the dance. A head outside of its skull is properly a theater belonging to the brain body. Columns undressed, sausage tracks of both rounded and bisected heads, emptied, properly prepared and belonging to capital or proper capital, dressed and undressed light. These empty heads disarranged are little empty bowls inwardly swelling. Bloom, bloom, bloom. Particular to this closed and rounded amphitheater, opening a disarranged brain, white, undressed along the forest and sky, a brain without shudder, inwardly hooving prehensile capillary dance, opening the sun outward. The theater prepares the belonging for its capital motion. Your unwatching eyes are asked to prepare a bullet to press straight through the bull's skull. Let it bloom. Milk sun purse shut, skin sermon scratched ember, fold fields into familiar throats. This bisected brain prepares itself as a door, properly opening itself to enclosed throats. The theater's prepared motion, syllables crowding hooves and closing, emptying motion, particular to dressing, undressing itself from proper bodies, ribbed and proclaimed milk, rigid, light, threads, veins, cutting straight as rounded motion, belonging properly to a dance straight and closed through the light, shut, familiar, is pressed over and against wide skull of the belonged, and this blessed light is a particular restraint, a familiar dance boiling straight through the aorta, between white brain trembling, the bowl of capital, efficient theater extended, extending, proper motion, opening, furrowing embryos arranged along a desk of enclosing fire. Right, right, right. Embers familiar, dance particularly to this proper motion of restrained light. The cathedral's windows blooming. Dancing dance, redress, restrained against nerve, emptied carcasses, branded limbs, a light tone, swelling inwards by hidden light and blood, bleed me, dress me, restraining entraced eyes, dismember limbs unmoving, remove any arrangement of capital by writing with blood and milk, through a nerved reprieve, outtract every disarranged ember, undressing blood pressed against light and clouded eyes, dark moon, bisected throat, resting nerveless against headlights, little burrs, right movement, close and near, your dressed carcasses redressed as straight and wide, whiteness, resting, rested, and cut light, reprieved, pressing blood, rewritten through little heads sees light, the light blood, writes between nerve throats, tracing proper embers and blooming capillaries with rivers hidden blessing, a field full of light, 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 sip water for an hour, watching the motion of capital empty carcasses, filling them with shadows. Cut light, purse skin, rigid embryo, proclaim trembling door, this cathedral tracked furrowing beef container, hiding bullets between empty open palms, flowering skull wide, little cathedrals, white property, calving nerves widely carcassized, cut skin over, stretch light, proper throat swelling, empty, dance, dance, dance. Dress yourself in empty motion, press light inward through your throat, fill fields with empty light, prepare opening embryos into bullets, breathe familiar sky swelling sun, bless these little nerve churches proper.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Our last reader for the evening is Rachel Simmons. Rachel is an American artist and educator from Orlando, Florida, who makes artist books, comics, zines, and prints. In her creative practice, she explores environmental and social activism, science, philosophy, and memory. She teaches book arts and printmaking at Rollins College and is a member of the Book Arts Guild of Central Florida and CBAA, the Association for Book Art Education. Rachel's artist books, which address a range of personal, environmental, and social issues, can be found in institutional collections and archives at the Whitney Museum of American Art, Scripps College, Harvard University, the Newberry Library, Bainbridge Island Museum of Art, and many more. Okay.
Thank you so much, Aaron. And thank you, AB, for both of you for putting this series together. It's really great. I'm really enjoying it. Thanks to the previous readers as well. You guys have really done a fantastic job. So I am going to present something different. What I'm going to share with you is it's a new thing for me. So I've made videos before, video art, but I've never made a piece of video art that I would call a book. This is the first one where video is my material. It is called Somewhere Between the Hard World and the Empty Void. And I started working on this video this summer while I was a resident at Edition Basel in Basel, Switzerland. And I want to thank them for supporting this work. The content of the video is derived from this book that I've been obsessed with lately. I brought it right here. Oh, I don't know if I can see it though, because I put the screen on. It's called Patterns in the Void, Why Nothing is Important by Sten Oldenwald. Sten is an astronomer and an author, and I find his writing really interesting. He's using what he knows about space and time and matter to try to address these huge unanswerable questions about what it's like to be human and experience space, time, and matter. The work was originally made for an exhibition that took place at the end of the residency. The title of that exhibition was was What Color Will My Skin Be Under the Water? And many of the artists in the exhibition use the nearby Rhine River that runs through Basel as a point of reference in their work. I ended up being really interested in the public fountains that are found in Basel. They are also swimming pools and are used by all the residents to stay cool in the summer. It's very hot in the summer. So I got to spend a lot of time in a particular fountain that was outside of our studio at the Druckwerk. And the fountain and sitting in the fountain became a metaphor or space where I could consider space, time, and matter in my own way. So you'll see in the video, and the reason you're going to watch the video with the original sound is because it's all part of the book, the recording, the sound of the water. It's all meant to be an immersive experience. It's not super different from my actual physical artist books in that I'm responding to what an existing author has put out in the world. I am exploring found imagery. I'm creating my own writing. And I'm also working in sequence between drawings and writing. So for me, it has a lot of resonance with my other work. It's just that it's moving. And so I'm gonna pull it up. Give me a second. I have to share my screen and then start the video. Somewhere between the hard world and the empty void, there is a place unseen by human eyes, but integral to the fabric of all living things. An invisible field that makes our very existence possible. Some call it the void. Our bodies are temporarily suspended within its infinite patterns. I want so desperately to know what it is. But is it possible to understand something that can't be experienced in the body? My hand moves the water and becomes part of its energy field. I archive the sensations in my memory, in my body. I understand my relationship with the water. Like the void, it exists inside and outside my body. Unlike the void, the water can be seen and felt. As living things, our brief histories are often misplaced or forgotten across the vastness of space and time. Matter coalesces in our bodies for such a short time before transforming into something else. Action of the invisible fields that lie between the hard world and the empty void, moving within me and also around me, requires a deliberate investigation of my mind's eye. That's it. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Rachel. So that is the end of our reading. Thank you to all of our readers, and thank you to everyone who attended tonight. We really appreciate you being here.